Silver Balls here, letting you know that you're watching the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, the very special, complete history of Tonka Wrestling Buddies. On behalf of myself, Matt, Brian, Swoggle, Canic, Zombie, David C. Anderson, the whole Major Wrestling Figure Podcast family, we want to wish you guys a happy and healthy new year. And what's this? What's in the Santa sack? The golden sack. I thought it would be silver, but let's check it out. Honestly, I hope that a lot of you guys got this stuff for Christmas. Let's see what we have here. Ooh. Oh, beautiful. I'll be bringing this to a lot of major marks around the country. The Brian Wrestling Buddy. See ya. And also, the $1 Million Broski. Check that out. Amazing. Great. He's got the belt, very detailed, the big schnoz. Take that. But what else do we got in here? Let me see this. The reason we're all here, the original Wrestling Buddies, the Ultimate Warrior. You're listening to the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast. Feel the power.
It's the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast. Time to start the show. Talking figs and collectibles. Here we are, let's go. Cardone is here to buy everything. Bare minimum, Brian's thinking what to say. Smart Mark is ready up the show. It's time to talk, let's go.
Merry Christmas and welcome to a very special Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, the history of the Tonka WWF Wrestling Buddies. I am your host, Matt Cardona, a.k.a. the $1,000 Broski, a.k.a. the Michael Jordan of Wrestling Figure Collecting.
And I'm your host, the most professional wrestler, Impact Wrestling star, and the Scottie Pippen of Wrestling Figure Collecting, Brian Myers.
I'm also here on this special episode, Smart Mark Sterling, producer of the show, the Phil Jackson of Wrestling Figure Collecting, Dr. Silverballs Esquire, and we are thrilled to be here in your living room or on your phones on this Christmas.
Guys, I thought we were going to actually meet up in the living room and wrestle the buddies today. I didn't know we were just talking in front of our cell phones like this.
I think Conrad's kind of pissed that we're not at the Con Radisson right now.
Right.
That's I don't know. After last year, he's probably thrilled that we're not at the Con Radisson.
Remember my tan from last year?
Hold the plane! Hold the plane!
Hold the plane!
The 1 year anniversary of Hold the Plane.
I promised Broski was going to have a full match with a wrestling buddy in this episode. So,
well, I did get a spray tan, a double dip last night, just to be as tan as I was last Christmas episode.
I don't think you'll ever be that tan again.
No,
but
because
okay.
that was a fresh spray tan. I went to the gym, I've showered. But 2 years ago, we did the history of the Hasbros audio. Last year, LJN audio and video. And today, audio and video, the history of the Tonka Wrestling Buddies. We'll get into it. We'll go through some other buddies, the major buddies, and we also have a very special interview with the designer of the Tonka Buddies, Stefanie Eskander. We'll play that later on in the show. But guys, how was Santa? Did he give you everything you wanted?
Oh, he's so good to me. He's good to me every year. I'm such a spoiled brat. You can't buy me a Christmas gift. It's very difficult. I make it hard for everybody because if I want something, I just get it.
I 100%.
And I don't want a lot, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Like that's not who I am.
No, times have changed. I used to have a huge list that I needed every bone cruncher, but now, Chelsea and I, we split a pergola, so we got a pergola for Christmas.
What the hell's a pergola?
I asked the same question. It is some wood structure that's in my backyard now.
Oh, with it has the
lights, the dangling lights.
Yeah.
nice.
It's weird. Like it doesn't have shade. Like there's a roof, but there's not a roof.
That's why I never understood them. Yeah.
I don't get it. But that was my Christmas gift.
Well, congrats on your pergola.
Congrats on your pergola.
Now, Mark, when Santa came down your chimney,
Yeah.
did he steal your silver balls off the tree?
He liked them. He said, "Whoa, what are these?" I explained exactly what they were, and so I think we might have to send him some signed ones if you have any left.
Ooh, some signed silver balls for Santa.
Well, speaking of Christmas Day, you got the Wrestling Buddies Christmas Day 1990, right?
Yes, I did. Myself and my brother Greg, we got the original 4: Hogan, Macho, $1 Million Man, and Warrior. Like, my best Christmas memory, I think, is getting those things because I was 5 years old. I'm a little bigger, but not much bigger, and you could really wrestle these guys. The commercial saw you, on the bed, wrestling them, wrestling on the floor. We set up a karate mat in my basement. We had tag team matches, singles matches. We had a WrestleMania on Christmas morning. It was the best.
Yeah, I just, like, the fond memories I have. I don't have, like, I don't think I got them for Christmas. Because that year I know I got, like, all the Hasbros, and I remember that, like, so vividly. I got all of Series 1 that I didn't have and the ring, and like I can remember that so vividly, so I feel like I would remember getting the buddies, so I don't think I got them at Christmas. That being said, I had the 4 of Series 1 that I just repeatedly wrestled into the ground in my basement. Like, I just have such fond memories of it, like, over and over and over again. My poor, like, cousin Mara, I remember I used to make her stand there and be like, "You're Miss Elizabeth," and I'd make her just watch me, like, wear myself out on these things or whatever, and, like, go to town, and, like, I have such vivid memories of it. So, we get into with our interview with Stephanie, these things have stood the test of time, like, and we get into it so much on the show about how sentimental some of this stuff is. I think this is, like, cream of the crop sentimental, because you can play with your wrestling figures for a pretty extended period of time. These buddies, like, when you're a little kid, like, truly, like, wrestling them, like, with your own imagination, you're left alone in that, like, world. That's, like, a way smaller window. You know what I mean by that?
For sure.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like, there's only a certain amount of time that you could play with it where it makes sense.
Like, you weren't going away to college and, like, sneaking in a little wrestling buddy match.
Well,
like,
I will,
no one's
I will
doing
say
that.
this.
You know what I mean?
will say this. I was a backyard superstar, so I would practice on the trampoline on the backyard with these until I was in high school. So I really have sentimental value with these things.
100%. Same thing with us. The Wrestling Buddies were the beginnings of the backyard federation. Like, when we were like, we're not going to.
Brian wasn't a backyarder because Bret Hart told him not to.
Bret Hart said not to do it. So. I guess I always was the most professional wrestler.
Yeah.
Well, to start, I think that we need to talk about the commercial. And actually, guys, let's play some clips of it right now.
Will you please see what those boys are up to?
Introducing WWF Wrestling Buddies. Wrestling Buddies from Tonka. Funk 'em, bop 'em. Wrestling Buddies are looking for action.
Hey, fellas, what's going on?
Nothing, Dad.
Who do you think you are?
Dad, Hulk Hogan!
Wrestling Buddies want to be your buddy.
Henry, what's going on up there?
Nothing, dear.
WWF Wrestling Buddies, new from Tonka. Each sold separately.
To me, that's like the gateway of the success of these things. Every kid that I was friends with that liked wrestling had at least one guy from Series 1, at least. And we all, wore these things out. And I think this commercial was so, like, eye-catching that this was, like, the gateway to the popularity that made these things really explode.
I think, personally, this commercial got people who weren't fans of wrestling. I think that, like, the whole idea of WWF in the 89, 90, 91 time was all the extra stuff that brought people into the product of pro wrestling. So I knew a lot of people who didn't even, like wrestling, but the commercial wore them down. And for me, it was the same thing. It was just like, I saw this commercial so many times. Those kids were having so much fun.
So,
I was jealous of
so
the
true to
band.
life, too. The dad going, you can't be doing that up there. The dad, like, it's so true to life to, like, what was really happening in my life at 5 years old.
Yeah, like the commercial, the ads in the magazines. It was like they had the bed, the ring bed. I was so jealous. I'm like, how come I can't have the ring bed?
Exactly.
I probably annoyed my parents to get me the ring bed that didn't exist for years.
Yeah.
True story. My brother and I, we broke my parents' bed wrestling on it. Like, literally broke the wood and it fell to the floor. But it was a tag team match.
Of course you did, yeah.
It was a big match.
You got to. It's like the... They do that all the time. They break the ring. Was John Cohn in the bed to fly out of it? Take a head.
John Cohn was 21 when these came out.
The big
John Cohn was 21 when these came out.
Yeah, John Cohn was finishing college when these came out. He was playing with
Series
buddies.
1, it's like, okay, we always talk about, like, did a company do the right character picks? And I think for Series 1, they really nailed it because we had 2 heels, 2 baby faces, so it was even. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We had Hogan, we had Warrior, the Macho King, and $1 Million Man. And, like, I can close my eyes right now, and I can picture them. Like, luckily I have them right here to look at them.
Right.
But they're so iconic. They're so toyetic.
Perfect.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
They've stood the test of time. I mean, and they're iconic pro wrestling characters. It wasn't like somebody who had a cup of coffee was popular in the moment, you know, that kind of got a figure that slipped in. Like, these guys really stood the test of time, which has made these even more iconic, you know?
And if I were to design these, I don't even think I would change anything because everything about them is so perfect. I even like that Warrior has the strap, Hogan has the strap.
No, that's
great.
For a
I think
kid,
it's
you're
great.
a little kid, that's great. You're not
And
thinking...
especially you had to choose, like, some guys are Warrior guys, some guys are Hogan guys. And if you're only buying one, not everyone had all four. You know what I'm saying? So if you're only getting one, you want the champ, and you get to choose. So you want to just get into it and go one by one of who's in Series 1?
Yeah.
You got to start with the immortal Hulk Hogan. Right here. It's from front to back.
It's crashing down, and it hurts inside right now, man.
That's right. It's got the rips in the back. It's got the title, the boots, the knee pads. It's cartoony but realistic enough. And what I loved about these figures is the nose, you know, so you can do some, right nose to nose, have those.
I don't know about that, but I think as we get into this, the nose is like that signature piece of the WWF ones that really kind of set them apart from a lot of the other buddies throughout history.
Well, it's a face to punch, right? Like,
That too. Yeah.
It's perfect.
It's just that little aspect of like 3D that makes it more than just like a pillow.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And we'll get into it later when we show like some of the WCW buddies. Like, these are so much more colorful. They pop. The packaging was incredible. Like, it took up so much real estate though at the toy aisle because it was so big, and it wasn't just a rectangle. It was angled, and it looked like you were in a ring kinda. It was just so big. But I remember at Toys R Us just having them, and like later on they put LOD as a 2-pack. So imagine that box.
Yeah.
If LOD is a 2-pack.
I don't think I've ever seen that LOD box in person. Actually, now you say that. The colors that the Ultimate Warrior portrayed on television literally popped off the screen to the point where he like is one of my first memories of pro wrestling, one of my favorite first wrestlers, because you're just so impressionable at that age, and that's exactly what his character and his gear did. So you see that in a toy that you can wrestle yourself in your living room. I mean, forget about it. Sign me up.
I'm really looking at the detail on this, and mine is still fluffy. That was if you wrestled with it enough, it got really, really flat. So this isn't my childhood one. I've since rebought them. And then, of course, if you don't know this, spoiler, you got to put them in a pillowcase and then put them in the washing machine. That's the safest way to clean them.
And it kind of really works, too, where they come back to life pretty damn good.
I do like the pose because you can make him like on you, giving you like a headlock, or you can give him a big hip toss,
Yep.
I mean, how else were they going to design it? I think this is a perfect way to do it. Later on, you can do the Pro for plunge.
Yeah,
Like
for whatever reason, like, because these were designed like that, I've always just been like, I prefer that design. Like, whenever any company's trying to make up arms or whatever, I just like, I don't know, it doesn't sit right with me. Like, if it's gonna be a buddy, it's just that.
Even the winged eagle, it's like cartoony but realistic enough. It's just like what's it called? A French kiss, or is that what it's called? Oh, chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss, bro. Come on, man.
Oh, maybe that's why I was going nose to nose. Hogan give him a French kiss.
Yeah.
And look at the hog on Hogan.
Yeah, put that.
Nobody got a bigger hog than me, brother.
Put that thing down,
nice
man.
package on the Hulkster.
Oh god.
So if you're looking at this, I don't think there's anything I would change. Like, could he be a little tanner? Maybe. No, but seriously, I love. I
you
prefer
can't
that
look
he
at
has-
this. You can't look at them with the same eye that you look at like an elite action figure or something.
But
Yeah.
I'm glad that he has the shirt on and the bandana on. You don't want a bald wrestling buddy. You don't want a bald man wrestling buddy.
Nope.
So he's got the bandana.
The mustache
title,
is great
the
too.
shirt.
The
Mustache is great.
cartoony
He's got
mustache.
that mean face.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. I want to read the tag here. Tonka. Minnetonka. Oh, Minnetonka. Is that why it's called Tonka? Minnetonka, Minnesota.
Oh, maybe.
I was today years old.
Me too. Wow.
I
Same,
was
but that
today years old.
that makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
WWF Wrestling Buddies, assembled in Mexico of U.S. materials. It also has like a stamp, 203, baby. Right from Stanford.
Uh-oh.
Really, really cool. So these came out in 1990. So I got them for Christmas 90. But yeah, let's any last thoughts on the Hulkster?
Did you ever do any? Did you do any selling yourself? Would you sell for these guys?
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
100%. You had to. It's a match. It goes back and forth.
Squash matches for me.
You
And
can't
Steve
be
Nagle
greedy.
on
You
these.
can't be greedy out there. You can't be greedy out there in your living room ring.
I was very greedy.
Luckily, my brother Greg was just a year younger than me. So we would either, we're teaming against, Macho Man and $1 Million Man, or like it's me and Hogan versus him and Warrior. So sometimes I'd have to sell.
Is that the G Money you're talking about?
That's G Money. That's right.
G Money. Grab a hold, kid. G Money. G Money. Grab a hold, kid.
Grab a hold, G Money. G Money. He said that he had the best splash in the business. That's what he said.
Oh.
Wow.
Anyway, here's Hogan. I love it. Iconic. And you know what, guys? If you're on the Hall of Fame committee, I want one of these to win in the Hall of Fame this year. I'm gonna push hard and petition hard
Not
for one
an
of
action
these.
figure. It has to be like a merch selection or something.
This doesn't count as an action figure?
No,
I might count it. I think I might count
I'm gonna count it.
Yeah.
it's not an action figure, guys.
No, it's gotten some votes before.
it's
in the miscellaneous
memorabilia.
category.
It's merchandise.
We're gonna figure something out. It's gonna be like the Warrior Award. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I think that's what I was saying. You need to do something.
Okay, we'll
separate.
do a miscellaneous award or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Well, anybody who's watching or listening to this, we encourage you to obviously, tweet us using the hashtag Major Buddies, or comment below on the video. Send us whatever you want to do, but let us know what was your favorite, buddy. Tell us your stories of how
what's
you
your
used to
Christmas
wrestle
memory,
with them.
birthday
Yeah.
memory?
And also, are they action figures or not? Let us know.
No, guys, come on.
Hashtag Major Buddies.
All right, let's move on. Next up, who you got, broski?
All right. Feel the power of the ultimate.
And that's my favorite buddy of all time. But
I mean, you talk about toyetic. You talk about bringing your television screen to life. This is it, right? Like, it's as colorful as it could possibly be. Neon pink, neon yellow, neon green. It's like it's a human highlighter.
yeah,
It's perfect.
it's pretty awesome.
So the one I have behind me is actually 100% my childhood one.
Whoa, I'm impressed, Mark. Wow.
Yeah, we grew up fighting them, and then we used to wrestle them in the pool, like as we got older.
Pool matches, huh?
So they got heavy.
intense.
So when
got
you're
heavy, yeah.
suplexing them, they're heavy. But if you look at his face,
Never did that.
not as bright as yours. It is like chlorine damaged and all that stuff.
Oh, I can see that.
But
yeah.
so mine is not as bright. But I did do the pillow trick. I cleaned it all up, but it's not as good
So
anymore.
this one, as a kid, it was kind of weird to me, but I understand it now that he also has the strap. Now this is coming, right after WrestleMania 6. So maybe they didn't know who's going to be champ by then, which is really interesting. Or maybe, spoiler alert, they did, and they didn't want to spoil it.
I feel like they got a little heads up. Is
Little
what I'm
winky?
thinking. If
Little
we're, now we're stepping outside the box here, but we've already talked to Stephanie. So judging by the calendar events that she gave us, I feel like they got a little iggy.
Toy Fair in February.
In February, he wins in
Maybe it's
April.
like March or April.
He wins in April. They're out in, she said, last quarter of 90, so September. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Spoiler alert.
Sorry.
Tassels.
I love that the rope is like drawn like rope.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like drawn on. Everything is just so artistically done. He's got the tassels on the boots, the tassel coming from the knee pads, the Warrior logos on the boots. I love it. Also doing that mean Warrior face. Full disclosure, this is not a spoiler because it's already happened. I, as the Ultimate Broski, lost to this very Ultimate Warrior on an episode of Z True Long Island Story.
And I was the ref.
But I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again. So when I created that Ultimate Broski character, I even put over the Ultimate Warrior. And when I met the Ultimate Warrior, it was the day before he passed on Monday Night Raw. I just got squashed by Rusev. And then I was going, through the curtain in Gorilla, and his segment was next for that iconic promo. And we met face to face, nose to nose, not that close. And I introduced myself, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you do my gimmick better than me." So that was super cool. And it was always
Nice
out of
backhanded
respect.
compliment.
Well, it was always out. I was never trying to mock the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah. I think he was so
never
protective of his gimmick and
Yeah,
stuff
and
that
he
he thought
should be.
maybe you were mocking him.
No,
but
that's
if he
why I
knew
put
you
him
personally,
over.
he would know that you're just marking out for him big time.
Well, that's why I put him over too.
Yeah.
And like, during that self-destruction of Ultimate Warrior era, I never bought into it. I always thought he was so great because he was, and we're still talking about him now. And I'm glad he's finally getting the credit and the recognition and the celebration that he rightfully deserves.
Totally.
Some might cost a little, some might cost a lot, but I'm the $1 Million Man, and you will be bought. It's $1,000 broski, the $1 Million Man right here. Thank God. Let's just say this. Thank God he's in the suit, because if he's in just like black underwear, a little weird.
Yeah.
Even Hogan, like Hogan's better off that he has the tank and the bandana and stuff because he's just in the trunks. It's just not as toyetic, nice to look at. But yeah,
and this is like it perfectly captures that 90 era, that Hasbro #2 era. That green, and I love all the glitter and the little the little diamonds or whatever. Like it's just glistening with the $1 million strap.
I think I might have my first critique of a buddy.
Uh-oh.
I think the hair and the beard need to be a different color because he always had a darker beard, and like even on the Hasbros, that's how it was always depicted.
Interesting.
Okay.
It's all the same color.
Something I did,
Like, he needs that Michael Hayes hair to beard darkness ratio.
I agree. Okay, I agree with you on that. Something I noticed on the Hogan is that the bottom of the Hogan boots were white. So it kind of gave some like added, not texture, but an added element. So these are all black. So like it's really even true to form, the detail down to the soles of the boots.
That's cool.
Which is pretty unreal.
Yeah.
But he's got the tie, the little pocket square, the championship. We talked to Stephanie. There were plans maybe of another title, like maybe for kids to wear. But I'm kind of glad the titles were on them. Would have been cool if it was removable, sure, but we would have lost them. We would have ruined them.
Oh my God, forget about it.
Yeah.
Especially that age. No way.
And then it's hard to find one that will fit on the buddy, and then also you, I guess.
Yeah,
there you go.
And I can't speak to specifics. I don't have numbers in front of me, but I gotta believe that $1 Million Man is the peg warmer of this set. Like nobody wants Booster from from Jiggle All the Way. Nobody wants the $1 Million Man.
I do think if I was a betting man, he'd be the least selling one for sure.
Right.
Because even in theory, you're supposed to beat up the heel. You want Warrior.
But these things were on fire, like
you
in
want
popularity.
But he and $1 Million Man, it's crazy to think. I also don't think he gets the recognition he deserves for being like he's a top guy for a period of time.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? And to be in the initial 4, I mean, who else would it be? If it's not $1 Million Man, you think of another heel. Who is it? I can't think of somebody.
No, I think they nailed it. Maybe at the time they were designing Rick Rude, but he leaves, so that would have screwed him in the long run.
So figure fate, wrestling buddy fate, it worked out.
Yeah.
Next.
All right.
Yeah, let's finish out.
Let's move on. Let's finish out Series 1 with the Ooh Yeah.
Ooh yeah, the Macho King. Ooh yeah. Like the Hogan has the white soles,
which
on the
does
boots.
looks great for some reason. I don't know.
I love it.
Well, he's the Macho King, which is very important.
Macho
with
King,
the
yeah. Which given by Stephanie's timeline, that is who he was in that year. So that makes sense. That's why he doesn't have the long tights. That's right. That's why he doesn't have the star trunks. He's
got the Macho King on the butt. It's kind of weird because like this Macho and DiBiase, they're like Hasbro Series 2 era. You know what I'm saying? And these come out a little before that, so it's kind of the right timetable. The sunglasses, the crown. I love even the hand tape is right, like the Matt Cardona hand tape. It's the Macho Man hand tape. I saw it from him.
Oh man!
But it's just so great. He can do the elbow. It's a nice heel to beat up, and then eventually he turns babyface, so it's kind of outdated with Macho King. But whatever.
Well, let me say this. Macho Man, one of the most iconic like looks in pro wrestling ever. Just so many cool like gear and coats and hats and all that stuff. This is the least toyetic of the 4.
Right.
There is really not much to this. This is the only guy just in trunks. Would you have rather had like a coat of some sort or something like that?
Nah, because it would have just looked funny. Well, it would have been a cape, and it wouldn't have been right. It would have looked funny.
Right, like Macho King. When I close my eyes, think of Macho King. Like his entrance stuff kind of changes. He doesn't have like one look.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think this is the best way to go. I don't know. I see what you're saying, but for the time period, I think this works.
Right.
And it looks like the Macho Man, and I love how like the hair goes onto the shoulders and stuff like that. They really,
it's great on the Warrior.
It's so cool,
he looks like he's in the middle of a match. It's just
And we learned from Stephanie that these are all drawn on. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they get an actual like a blank buddy, and then she was drawing it on.
Right.
So that's why I think everything flows so perfectly, as opposed to if it was done flat and then put on.
Yeah, it wouldn't make any sense. Yeah.
Right. This is the absolute way to go. And this is Series 1. So who do you think, who's your favorite Series 1 superstar?
No, Warrior is just iconic to me, like
Warrior
forever.
For sure.
Yeah.
Right there.
Like
behind
I literally can close my eyes and it feels like every friend I had in 1990 and 1991 had Warrior and Hogan at the very least. You know, it was that popular of an item.
I'm gonna disagree. I'm gonna go with Hogan. I do say Warrior is that iconic, but something I'm gonna share this now, and you guys are gonna kill me listening. But I once had a Macho King wrestling buddy signed by the Macho Man, and like wrestled it too much, and my parents eventually threw it out because it was all like destroyed from wrestling in the backyard. Like I had a Macho King wrestling buddy signed, autographed, and I still wrestled with it.
Wow.
Imagine how,
Like,
what
looking
that
back-
would. What like if that was kept well and what value that would be.
If I could go back in time, I would just get another buddy. You know what I'm saying? Like, Dad, you should have put that one away. Got me another one.
I kind of blame your dad on this one.
I blame my dad.
yeah.
I don't know.
Get me another one.
I don't know. It's tough.
But,
tough call.
Super cool. I love this Macho Man. But yeah, I see what you're saying. A little too plain.
Yeah.
A little too plain.
Yeah.
Let's go to Series 2.
Series 2, baby. Full disclosure here with Series 2. Big Boss Man, Jake the Snake, Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal in a 2-pack. I never had as a child.
What?
I have no...
Pat and Diane, I blame you.
I have no even like memories of ever seeing them in the store or where I would even like ask to get them. And then my buddy, Jake Rubin, had he had at least LOD and maybe like Boss Man, not even Jake, and I would go over his place and see them and play with them, and that was like it. I have no, so I don't know if they were like tougher to find, and now I mean they had to be because even now in like the secondary market they're way more lucrative than Series 1, so there's definitely something to that. But yeah, I mean not that I have them now and in condition and stored and saved, but yeah. That's where I'm at with that.
I don't remember them having much fanfare. Like, there was no commercial, I don't think. If there was, correct me. If there's a magazine catalog, correct me. But I don't remember getting them, but I definitely had them. There's a picture we can show right now of me meeting the Big Boss Man. And for some reason, this was at a live event. I brought the Big Boss Man to the live event. Like,
You're
I just knew he was going to be there.
The modern day
weird.
fan you see at a show that's wearing like a replica tire. Like, why would you do that? And then you went
I
to a
brought
show
the
with
Big Boss Man.
Honestly, back in those days, and you could go on the network and look, people are in the crowd with like the Hogan buddy, and they have in their hand, and he comes out. So it wasn't like uncommon.
Yeah.
It's really great. It has the glasses. I think there's a version. Stephanie talks about it. That she sold it. That it has no glasses.
Wow.
I think. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, but to me, with these, you're going like the most eye-catching versions of these guys. You gotta just all the gimmicks that you can put on this thing.
One thing I've never noticed. I was today years old when I realized this. He should have black pants.
Yeah, I guess that's just to make it more.
Pop a little more.
Yeah, I think that would be my guess. Because then it would bleed into the shoes, and then it
would bleed into the belt.
The belt, yeah. I think that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, the blue pants. The blue pants look great though.
I know,
They look great. They look so good.
It makes no sense.
It took me 30 years to realize they were correct.
I'll fully admit, you just got me with that one, yeah. But that I can see from an artistic eye why she did that.
What I love about these is when you really look close, and now that we know how these were made, you can really see how they're hand drawn. Where not every design and detail is perfect because it's hand drawn, but I love it. I love the detail in that. Trust me, brother, Jake.
All Elite Wrestling superstar, Jake the Snake Roberts.
What a great figure. I love that it has the snake. If it didn't have the snake, would it be as cool? Absolutely not.
No,
Needs a snake.
No, it wouldn't even be like discussable, like, topical. It's just like
right.
His face is so good.
Cool.
The hair makes it
Mustache,
it's just so
that
realistic.
beautiful
The
mustache.
Yeah.
The snake skin. So obviously, this is pre-heel turn, pre-glove, pre-trust me.
I would say that's like the downfall of this because like right as this kind of comes out, that happens, right?
But what's so great about him perfect DDT. Bam, you know?
Show's over. Broski just took a DDT.
Right? Like, I took a lot of DDTs from Jake the Snake in the backyard. Another fun fact is that I had a Jake the Snake autographed. I met him at LNS Comics.
I don't think I've ever seen an autographed Buddy, now that you're saying this.
Well,
And
I'm going to mention it again in the episode, too.
I know, but now that you're saying this, I feel like that would be a really beautiful autographed item. Wow.
Yeah, I had it, and I wrestled with it too much, where it was eventually thrown away. But super great. I love the purple. I love what they chose. The snake. It's great.
It's
And some of these outfits aren't completely accurate.
But
for this, it works.
It's the best depiction in that stylized Buddy form. I mean, it's perfect.
Broski, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
These buddies that you're showing, obviously you said you rebought these. Were they all in the box?
No. So actually, I would say friend of the show, but I haven't talked to him in over a decade. Todd Rokas, Brian's friend, he had these in his basement and just sold them to me all at once. So I got the whole collection besides LOD, and they were all still very fluffy
And all loose though. I really don't remember that.
It was probably pre Deep South Wrestling. So
Oh, really?
yeah. So 2005.
And then mine, I got like way more recent than that. Maybe like right before I got fired the first time. 13, 14. I was like, I kind of want these. I'm going to be real. I'm starting to get sentimental about these, and I'm going to for sure want them, and I'm going to want them for. I remember telling my parents, because I lived in an apartment in Queens at the time, and I got a bunch of them, and then brought them over to my parents to put in the attic. My mom's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, and I was like, at one point, I'm going to want these for my kids and something. Shut up. Let me do this.
True.
But
And
yeah,
you were
excellent figure.
Yeah.
And let's get into the rest of Series 2, which is weird because
It's a 2-pack.
it's a 2-pack. So I never really considered that Series 2, but I guess it makes sense 4 and 4.
It's 4 and 4 for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know how it shipped, but I mean,
Right.
And we talked about this with Stephanie. I've never seen this box in person. I can only imagine how massive this packaging is in real life.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll find a picture and pop it in right
I
now.
mean, it goes for a lot of money. I know that.
So here they are, Hawk and Animal. Now, you talk about the flat pancake. These are flat pancaked. I don't know if you can see.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
flat
looks like
they
you
are, like-
stupid. Were you using it as a booster seat the whole time, and you just pulled it out?
Compared to that, Jake, is it coming across on camera? I'm not sure.
Yeah, his legs are. It's in his legs for sure. He's got great Khali's legs, I think.
So I got these on eBay about 10 years ago because even LOD is tough to get.
Yeah.
So luckily they're very, very clean, but they're very, very flat. So I will need to upgrade them one day.
Wow.
But I love
You
it.
can't,
It's
like- Mash them up a little bit, and
yeah,
I think you can.
maybe. But I love that, it has the shoulder pads, the tongue out on Hawk, the hair. But I just noticed this too. The hair should not connect back there. He didn't have like a Hogan.
That's kind of funny.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But very, very cool. And then, of course, Animal. Really great as well.
I complained about the spikes on the Hasbro figures. I thought it was ridiculous. I will not complain about the spikes on
Oh,
these
you
buddies.
can't stab anybody with this.
And you can. And it looks cool because it has like
It's perfect.
the
depth.
the depth to where you think, ooh, it looks like
Right.
eye catching. Yeah.
Yep.
And I do wish it would have had his mohawk, though. But not like the tail, the little rat tail.
I see.
Yeah. That would have been cool.
But his Hasbro doesn't either.
You're right, actually, huh? And he definitely
But,
had
I mean,
it.
to get the LOD, this is like Matt and Greg Cardona's dream. It's the rest of the Legion of Doom. And then we can finally do it with this too. And like you said, the packaging of this must have been insane. Must have been so huge.
I for sure would have, even as a kid, I feel like I would remember seeing that in the store because it would have been like, wow. But I
Wait,
don't.
very, very serious question.
Yeah.
What was your name when you and G Money wrestled the Legion?
Oh
of Doom?
no! So like I had so many like names because we had the WWKF, the World Wrestling Kid Federation.
Okay.
And it was
man.
it was a shoot, brother. It was a shoot.
Right.
We thought wrestling was real.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Any
I was,
personas you remember?
Oh, there was Boy Toy Brett Matthews, of course. And then later I became Stone Cold Matt Austin.
Oh, real? Dug real deep on that one, huh?
So went back to the Brett Matthews with a Z, of course.
Okay.
You know,
Great.
And that was my first indie name, but with an S.
Right.
Myers and Matthews.
On that note, I mean, these things are some of the most iconic pro wrestling memorabilia of all time. Let's throw to the woman herself that designed them, Stefanie Eskander.
Great interview.
All right, guys, a very special portion of the episode. We have an interview with Stefanie Eskander. She basically designed all of these Tonka buddies. Stefanie, welcome to the show.
So glad to be here with you, Matt, and guys, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we grew up with these things. We got them Christmas morning. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. It's Christmas morning today.
Yeah, if you didn't know that.
I wish I was getting these buddies for Christmas, but can you kind of walk us through how did you get involved with Tonka, especially WWF Wrestling Buddies?
That's a really good question, and it's a good story, I think. I had been designing for Hasbro toys in the mid-'80s, and at the end of 1989, I was persuaded to come and join the Tonka team as a girls' toy designer. So right after Christmas, I think it was December 27th, 1989, I arrived in Minneapolis and began my work as a Tonka designer. And I think I'd been there for maybe one day when I was invited to come into a meeting with the Boys Toys group. And you have to understand that I have been primarily a doll and girls toy designer. You know, I draw cute and pretty and pink and lacy and all of that kind of stuff. And they brought me into this meeting. Tonka had been toying, I say pun intended, with a soft wrestling toy for a while. They had received this concept, prototypes and concept from an outside inventor. I really don't know when it was, but sometime before I arrived in the end of 89. But these wrestling toys were very generic. They were kind of bald-headed guys with just, you know, wrestling suits on. And the concept was there, but they didn't have there was no characters involved. They were just generic wrestlers. And the boys' marketing and design team were really enthusiastic about the wrestlers. They thought it was really a great idea. So they presented to the upper management of Tonka, and they were kind of less enthusiastic. But they had done some focus testing and tested it with kids. I think at least one of the designers or marketing people had taken it home and had his own boys play with it, and it was just super popular. And so at some point before I arrived, Tonka managed to acquire the WWF license from Titan Sports to do the buddies. And so they got this wonderful license, but they didn't have any artwork to go with it. So when I arrived, because I had an illustration background and could draw decently, they invited me to come in and give it a shot. I believe that just about every designer at the company had tried at some point or another to draw the Wrestling Buddies. They brought me in, said, give it a try. I sat down with a bunch of wrestling magazines. You know, of course, I knew who Hulk Hogan was. That was pretty much it. I didn't know much about the wrestling world. So I started drawing, and I captured a likeness, a cartoony likeness, which was pretty much the same face that you see today on the Wrestling Buddies. And they were super enthusiastic, and they said, you go, girl. So now that you have to understand, this is the very end of December, 89, January 1990. They wanted to present the Wrestling Buddies at Toy Fair in mid-February, 6 weeks away. So that meant that we had to create the form of the Wrestling Buddies. And I have to say, part of it was a team effort. There was a woman who was the head of soft goods, a soft goods engineer. She and her team had created the actual sewing pattern, you know, the basic shape with the arms and the little short legs. And they provided, you know, and a nose. It had a seam across here. There was a nose. And that form was created by her team. I had to take that form and make it work for the 4 wrestlers that had been chosen for the first go-round, which, you know, was Hulk Hogan, $1 Million Man, Ultimate Warrior, and Macho King. So the first thing, I looked at my calendar for January of 1990, and like the day after we got back from New Year, I was already starting the final artwork to go on the Wrestling Buddies. So it took just a couple of days to do it. And then I had to draw the figure on these kind of pillows. We did it when they were actually filled, because it would have been too hard to have created them when the patterns were unsewn and flat. So they sewed up all these white figures, and then I hand drew on the soft pillow buddy, and then used a black marker and did all the line work, and then colored them all in with alcohol-based markers. And so we had to make not only a prototype, a prototype set for Toy Fair, but we had to create photo models, catalog models, testing models, the commercial, everything that we did. So there were multiple. So probably maybe 10 of each of these guys were created, hand-drawn. So I drew every single one of them. I sat in my hotel room. My family was still living in Rhode Island, where I'd been at Hasbro. And I sat in my hotel room at night and just colored these white markers.
How many markers did you go through?
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's going to be a lot.
Well, we discovered that the best kind of markers to use were Prismacolor markers. They're alcohol-based. The problem was that fabric just sucked the life out of the markers.
Bleed,
so
right?
it would, well, they didn't bleed too badly, but they would dry up really quickly. So I might have to, I had boxes, literally cardboard boxes full of markers. We had to order them special. They would bring them in, and it might take me 20 markers just to do one buddy.
Whoa.
And
So the
that's
Toy Fair is
what
in February. These
Toy Fair is in February.
They come out that year for Christmas. So
Yes.
the turnaround time was incredibly fast.
And they don't just come out for Christmas. They come out fourth quarter, which is September.
Right.
Wow.
So that means they had to be done. And a unique thing about the Wrestling Buddies was that these were all created locally. They were actually assembled in Mexico, but everything that was done locally or in the United States. So I created the original artwork. Then we would hand deliver it to Stamford, Connecticut, to Titan Sports, to the WWF for approvals.
Yeah.
Because shipping things back and forth would lose too much time. It was cheaper for Tonka to just put 5 of us on a plane and fly us to New York to drive up to Newark and meet with, the executives at Titan Sports. So I did that about 5 or 6 times, go to Newark for that. And then after the drawings and the buddies were approved, then we sent them out to a local Minneapolis print firm who created films, because this is 2-dimensional art, right? It's not sculpted or anything like an action figure. It's 2-dimensional art. So we had to have films made. And then I had to approve all the films to make sure the art was exactly like I drew it. And then we sent those films to a company in New Jersey, in Newark, New Jersey, that did all the printing. So all of the printing, and you can imagine that these were done on bolts of fabric that were big as a room. Mm-hmm. This is called sublimation printing. And so the soft goods engineer, Pat, and I would travel to Newark, and we did that about 3 times, to go on the factory floor and watch them print out all of this fabric and make sure that, all the colors work. Because, it's a lengthy process. And the fabric has to be woven, it's knit. It has to be knit first. It was done there, and then it was printed. So then after all the fabric is printed, then it was shipped down to Mexico for assembly. And so we were involved every step of the way on this, unlike some projects that you kind of do your part and then you send it off to China, and then, a year later you see it.
So early on, especially with this first series, what kind of feedback did you get from the WWF? With the approval, was there any sort of big changes that you remember, or?
And to add to that, they chose the 4 wrestlers that were in Series 1.
I believe they chose the 4.
Right? Because even to this day, they kind of, it's like you said, there's approval, and they, make their suggestions and whatnot.
And that's interesting because I'm often asked what other wrestlers were considered. As you know, we did 2 series. We did the first series, which was the first 4 that I mentioned. Then we did the second series, which was Jake the Snake, Big Boss Man, and then Hawk and Animal, the Legion of Doom.
Yep.
So total of 8 wrestlers. But during that, after those first 4, I believe that those first 4 were decided before I even came. So I had nothing to do with the choice of those. So, but then when the second 4, we were having meetings, because by this time we're getting late into 1990. So orders have already come in, but I'm going to go back a little bit. Toy Fair actually was not a huge success. I think especially the boys marketing team was really 100% on board. They were super excited about the product. They thought it was just going to, it was going to be a big success. And Toy Fair, of course, is the trade show, so it's for buyers, not for the, not for the general public. So it kind of got a decent response, but kind of not what they were hoping. But by late summer, early fall, when the orders were starting to come in, it just went viral. There was no viral then, but it would have been viral had there been. And it kind of took off. So at this point, we are now working on the second round. And so we had talked about doing The Undertaker, Bret Hart, Tugboat, Sergeant Slaughter.
Wow.
I even have a little sketch I did in a brainstorm session we had. It's a little cartoon of a little sailor with a little, Navy hat on. His tugboat hat. So, there were other wrestlers that were being considered that I'm sure it was the WWF that made the final decision to not move forward. And then you asked me about changes, and that's interesting too, because Jake the Snake actually went through a major change, and I have in my notes, he had an outfit, and I think it was his leggings changed color from purple to green or green to purple, and
Gotcha.
And so I had to completely redo his lower body to, create new artwork. And I'm sure that, the costume changes that the wrestlers go through is really important. And you want to make sure that your outfits reflect as closely as you can the most current iteration of their persona. So, it was fine for me to make the changes.
And these figures now, like I grew up on these, like Christmas morning, 1990. I had the original 4, and for me, I guess I was 5 years old, so I was a little bigger than them, but they were my size. You could actually wrestle with them, and then we all saw that commercial, and the house is shaking, and you needed to have.
I wore mine out, man. I have vivid memories of being in my basement, just like going at it with these 4 buddies, like, and then. It had to be such a smash hit for you. Like I was just thinking, you dedicated a whole year of your life, and maybe I don't know if you were so caught up in the work of it. Did you have any idea how big these were going to be? Because I did not. I was 5 or 6, like Matt's saying, and every single one of my friends had at least one of the guys in Series 1. Like every person I know had them and played with them.
I had no idea. Never crossed my mind. When you're a toy designer, you're so into the day-to-day tasks that you're given and the work that you're doing and trying to do the best job that you possibly can. At least for me, I'm not thinking about how well they're going to sell. I'm trying to make them awesome, make them do my very best work, make them fun and attractive, and just be the best designer that I can be. But I don't worry too much about whether something's successful or not, whether it's going to come out or not. Maybe if I had been in upper management or marketing, I'd be consumed by it. But another thing that is also really important to understand is I was not just working on Wrestling Buddies. I was brought into Tonka to be a girl's toy designer. And if I were to show you my notebooks, they are full of I was working on the Cupcakes line of dolls. And I was working on 2 years worth of cupcake dolls, and I was working on other doll lines. And so, it's like make a prototype of this in the morning, and then in the afternoon go down to Minneapolis to check on the films for Macho King, that kind of thing. I mean, and it seemed like I did a lot of traveling around because we didn't have email in those days. And, we had to go look at things in person and check things out. We didn't have, it's lucky that we even had photocopiers, in the old days. So, transmitting our designs was a lot harder in those days. So we did it the direct way as much as possible. So it was a busy time for me.
And kind of jump forward a little bit. Sorry, Mark, for cutting you off. When did you realize that these have stood the test of time and they're so cherished by so many? I mean, I've seen you do these interviews before, and like, these things aren't just toys to a lot of us. These things are our childhood, and they still hold up. And so many
iconic.
companies,
Yeah,
they're truly iconic.
Yeah.
And we're doing a whole episode about them right now. and 30 years have passed, and there's been so many toy companies that we're going to cover later in the show that have tried to make these. And some are similar, some are way off, but the absolute best are the originals for so many reasons. And that artwork, it just holds up from head to toe, back and front. Like, I can close my eyes and picture what they are without even looking at them right now. That's how iconic they are. So thank you for that.
Well, they're right over at Stephanie's shoulder, so it's not that far.
I've got Hulk, and then I've got a prototype of.
Ooh.
That's
cool.
a hand drawn.
Oh, I was going to ask you if there was 10 of each. Man, where are those at?
Oh, don't go there. The thing about working for a toy company is you're an employee of the company, and so. The things that you create belong to your company.
Totally.
But the interesting thing that happened, and you guys, I'm sure know it, but maybe some of your viewers are not really aware of the chronology, is that right in the middle of all this, Hasbro bought Tonka.
Yes.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
So in January of 1991, so I'd been at Tonka just about a little over a year, they announced that Hasbro was buying them. And that was a big shock. I had just come from Hasbro, right? And I wasn't sure what this was going to mean. And we were working on our next designs. And so that created some issues. But we were told at the time, and I think this is probably pretty normal when you have a corporate buyout, your employees need to be reassured that things are going to be the same, that they're not going to lose their jobs, that we're just going to go on and do what we've been doing. And that's what they did. And so we were reassured until May, when it was announced that we were being shut down. And that's an interesting story because Tonka actually was part of 3 toy companies, Tonka, Kenner, and Parker Brothers. They were actually, Tonka owned the other 2 companies, but it's a complicated business arrangement. And I couldn't tell you exactly how that worked. But what they did was, it was a natural for Hasbro to acquire Parker Brothers because they already had Milton Bradley. And so, it made sense for them to have another game company to kind of consolidate and have a monopoly over the game industry.
Yeah, totally.
And Kenner, of course, had been hugely successful in the 70s with Star Wars toys, and were a pretty good sized company. They, did Strawberry Shortcake and a lot of other I know the girls' toys, you know the boys' toys. A lot of really successful toy lines, and they actually employed more people than Tonka. Tonka was small, and of course, our major product was trucks, Tonka trucks, and so. What ended up happening was they felt that we were probably the weakest link in their acquisition because we were small. So they took the Tonka truck license, and they took one of our Tonka truck designers, and moved him to Rhode Island. So he went over there and continued work on the Tonka truck line. I mean, that was really important to keep that continuity. All the girls' toys that we were working on, cupcakes and other toys, went to Kenner because that was kind of a natural thing for them. But the wrestling toys went to Hasbro. And so as soon as the buyout was announced, we started seeing Hasbro marketing design executives coming into our offices to start reviewing what we were doing with them. So now we had kind of another layer of input and voices, and eventually, at the end of 1991, when we were finally shut down, they took over everything. And so we had to send them all of our sketches, drawings, blueprints, anything we had to send to Hasbro or Kenner, as the case may be. And so I was able to waltz out the door at the very end with some of the later stuff. I still have my original sketches of the Legion of Doom.
Wow.
My original drawing of the Big Boss Man, which I sold, and
good for you.
And my prototype. Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So is this how there's no Series 3? They didn't see any money in continuing it, or is it? How did that happen? Because it seemed like such a smash hit, and to fade off after 2 series is like kind of just, you know.
I can't speak for Hasbro, and I love Hasbro. They were a great company for me to work for. I really love the people I work with. I know a lot of the guys in the Boys Toys group who took over the wrestling line. My personal opinion is that they were busy with their own thing. They were going to be getting the wrestling, the action figure wrestlers.
Yeah.
And so to put a lot of energy into a soft toy, the boys group there didn't really have the resources to do soft toys. Soft toys were the venue of girls.
Got it.
The girls group and the preschool group. And that would have kind of been me had I still been at Hasbro Play School. But when they brought the wrestlers into Hasbro, they probably thought, well, we'll just do what's in the pipe and then we'll just let it go. I think, and you guys talked about how Wrestling Buddies had so much of an impact on you. And, I think a lot, being a girls' toy designer, one of our primary focuses with girls' toys and dolls is nurturing. That's not all toys. There's fashion dolls and there's all kinds of toys for girls that are not nurturing. But nurturing is still a really important part of girls, play patterns, and not necessarily boys. Boys might play with Paw Patrol, or they might have a teddy bear or something, but it hasn't been a very masculine play pattern. And toy companies have tried a lot of times, sometimes successfully, like with My Pet Monster and others, to bring soft toys into the boys market and make it, compelling and interesting, but still soft.
Yeah.
And I think Wrestling Buddies, it wasn't really nurturing so much as somebody just said recently. It was something that you could roughhouse with and then you could take to bed at night.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that you can't take your action figures to bed. I mean, you can, but they, they might hurt. So there was just something about those Wrestling Buddies that were, you could be as tough and, roughhousing with it as much as you wanted. But in the end, it was something you could cuddle with and kind of love. And I that really makes me so happy. You just can't know that, knowing that you guys, my sons, and so many other boys and girls, because of course it isn't just boys. There's a lot of women that loved wrestling and girls that loved it, but loved those figures in such a significant way. So to me, it just makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, I had the 8 of them, and I got them a couple years ago, and washed them and stored them. And now my oldest daughter is like 3.5, and I just busted them out, last month for her to play with, and like my heart was literally melting, like watching her like have a blast with these things in the living room. So it really is just an iconic product that's like stood the test of time. And I think it's going to just live on forever. So you should be really proud of that.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
that first 4 with the 2 bad guys and 2 good guys. So you could beat up Macho King and $1 Million Man, and then you could tag team with your brother, your friend. Like it was the best. That was the best part. It was just the best guys, and they looked so great, and like they looked realistic enough, but they were still cartoony and fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of have to make them cartoony because of the shape that they were. You couldn't do anything realistic, and just to try to capture. I'm not really a caricaturist, but, I felt pretty good about the artwork. Sometimes I look at them and say, oh, I wish I had done that, or I wish I'd done a little better.
Oh, no, keep them the same. Keep them the same.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I've been following your social media for a while. So I saw there, like you keep all your notes, and there was one of your notes that there was supposed to be some sort of like ring or mat. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, we were going to have, there was a couple of interesting things that we were going to do. We were going to have a wrestling mat, and then we were going to have a deluxe Ultimate Warrior that was going to have sound effects.
Whoa.
Ooh.
And I'm just saying, these are things that I wrote in my notes, and I don't know how. I know that I did research. I know I went out and bought some play mats. They weren't wrestling mats, but I went out and bought some play mats. We often, as toy designers, go out and buy things that are kind of like what we want to do, just to see how it's constructed, how we can do it. So I came back with some play mats to start working on it. And from my recollection, it was it was not approved to go forward, and I don't believe I even got into a prototype stage. But
Oh man, I would have loved that. Just imagine like a giant, like a mat. Instead of using your mom's bed or the couch cushions, you have this nice mat. I was always so jealous, like the advertisements, like they had like this bed ring. I was like, why can't they make that?
Yeah, it would have been awesome. I mean, it would have been good size, right? Because you had to have kids and wrestlers inside the mat. So it would have been good size. But I think, manufacturing costs being what they are, and Tonka was, still a fairly small company. Maybe a Hasbro or Mattel could have afforded to take that kind of a risk. And it was, still the end of the first year or so, we still didn't know how big Wrestlers was going to be. Right. And if Tonka had not been bought by Hasbro and just continued, it's very possible that these things would have been developed, because once Hasbro bought us, it didn't put a halt to our development because we were still working on projects, but it kind of put a pall over us a little bit. We were sad because we were hopeful that we were going to just be able to stay there and do what we did best. But there was just that dread that, that they might shut us down and we would all be unemployed. And there would be.
We've mentioned it a few times now, that commercial. And we've talked about sort of how important we feel that commercial was to maybe the success of this line.
Oh, had to be.
I mean, if you are a boy and you're walking down the aisle and you see a stuffed animal, wrestling figure, you might not get it, but it's like that commercial that showed you, oh, wait a minute, you wrestle with
fight this thing?
Yeah. It's like, it blows your mind. You're like, oh, okay, I get it. But what was it like for you to sort of, you designed these things, you colored them in, you drew them, you built them, and then you see them on national television, especially in a time where, that commercial's all over the place. What was it like to see that commercial? And, were you just like surprised by it? Did you have any input on it or anything like that?
I didn't have any input, but I loved it. I thought it was one of the best commercials of any toy that I've been involved with. And it was, just the concept was awesome. And that kind of reminds me, there was we were interviewed, those of us who were part of this development team for the Wrestling Buddies, we were interviewed by the St. Paul newspaper. I think they were called the Dispatch, around Christmas time in 1990. So this was before the buyout, but after sales had just gone through the roof. And it's a really lengthy article, and a lot of the information that I have of the background as far as marketing and how it all came to be was because of this really wonderful article. And that was, to me, it brought it home to me, because designers generally don't receive recognition, and that's just how it is. We don't expect it. Our names aren't on the products unless you're some sort of celebrity person. You don't get credit, and that's fine. I've never asked for or wanted credit or fame or anything like that. And so, when a newspaper comes out, a big newspaper like that comes out and splashes your picture on the front page of this, whatever the section it was, and I'm right there. There was a whole team, and the guy who was the head of marketing is in front holding Hulk Hogan, and then I'm right next to him, kind of one row behind, holding one of the prototypes, and all the team are all behind us. And when that came out, it was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. So kind of a combination of that commercial and the sales. And but still, it kind of was in the back of my mind until about, I think it was 2013. And I was, my husband and I had moved to New Jersey. I was working as girls design manager at Toys R Us, their corporate headquarters. And my younger son, who is probably about you guys' age, texted me kind of in the middle of the night. And he said, oh my gosh, Time Magazine has awarded Wrestling Buddies one of the top 100 toys of all time.
Wow.
That freaked me out, honestly.
That's awesome.
So I was a blogger back then. I still have a blog, but I blogged about it. And later when I wrote my book, I have a book that I am just finishing up my second edition on.
Oh, plug it.
Yeah, plug away.
Okay. Well, here it is.
Ooh,
Toy Stories.
Nice.
Oh,
The
that's
Secret
awesome.
Life of a Toy Designer.
Oh, very cool.
And I do have a section on the Wrestling Buddies, but I basically just took my blog post, copied and pasted, and wrote it, into my into my book. And so it kind of extensively quotes the article that had been written because I had a copy of that. So I was able to kind of, remember some of the details about how it was developed because it's been a long time. I mean, it's been almost 30 years. And, if I didn't have my notebooks, here's my one from 1990, which is...
Well, I was about to say we are so
completely
grateful.
full.
We are so grateful for those notebooks. So we have this podcast. It's been about a little over 2 years, and every once in a while in our news we find something that we find on your Instagram, like there was going to be a tugboat, or I think one of the posts was there was going to be a removable belt for some of the figures or something.
Yes. Oh, and one thing that I just discovered today as I was preparing for this interview is in early 1991. So this was, long after months after the original 4 were released, we were looking at simplifying. And for some reason, it was $1 Million Man. We were going to take out the nose seam. I mean, it would just be artwork, because the sewing of those patterns is a little bit complex and everything costs money.
Of course.
That's how toys, and to cut the small nose pattern and to stitch it in and stuff it and all that costs. So we were looking at simplifying the pattern. And so a couple of days I've got, worked on new $1 Million Man face, and apparently that was nixed. My guess is that they weren't going to do a new run of those original 4. So why simplify it and, why ruin what you'd already created that was awesome. So.
Because at the same time, there was the WCW, the other company, made their version of the Wrestling Buddies, the Wrestling Champs. But you look at them, like you said, they're flat, the nose is drawn on, it doesn't come. It looks almost bootleg compared to these guys.
Yeah.
These have so much character and life, compared to those WCW ones.
In
How did it feel to get ripped off?
In 1991, I went to New York City and testified in the trial because Tonka took them to court.
Oh, really?
Ooh, this is the juice I like.
Yeah, wow. That got real deep. I wasn't expecting that.
I've never heard that before. I just thought it was a little...
No, it was. We sued.
Over the patent?
Over that it was that consumers would be confused, and not that they weren't entitled to make a soft wrestler, but that their structure was so similar to... Now, of course, you've seen so many that have been done that have used that structure. But when we did them, it was so unique. And we lost, though. We lost the lawsuit. So they were allowed to continue. I don't know if there were additional requirements that they make some changes, but they didn't stop production, and we just had some competitors. But I agree. I think ours were much better.
They're so much more colorful and vibrant. The other ones looked like your prototypes were kind of like the it's all dull. It's not as bright.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
I agree. Maybe a little bit is the girl's toy designer in me, because I love color and I don't know if you can see behind me, but a lot of those things are toys that I've designed, and there's neon colors and bright colors. I'm not one to like dull. And of course, designing for boys is a little bit different because there are color preferences, right? But we wanted to be true to the costume colors that the wrestlers wore. Do they call them costumes?
Bring attire costumes.
We call them gear.
Their
you say our gear.
Yes, we wanted to be true to that. But I'm sure I pumped those colors up a little bit. And also when I approved the printing, I wanted to make sure that everything was as bright and eye-catching as possible.
Are you aware of how much value these things have obtained over the years?
I know that I can't afford to buy anymore.
So
in the package especially, forget about it.
That's what I was going to say. So obviously the ones from childhood, absolutely destroyed, like completely flat, dirty. I'd wrestle with them in the backyard. So as an adult, I rebought them. And there's a little trick that if they're all dirty, you put them in a pillowcase and put them in the washing machine. That really,
that's true.
Air dry, and they're pretty spot on.
They're good to go.
I did that with a lot of them.
If you're going to find, we like to call them loose. If they're not in the package, to still have like the fluff, it's very hard because a lot of them pancake out over time. Yeah. But to get them in that package, it's very expensive. And that package, it's so big, it must have took up so much real estate in the toy aisles.
It did. It was very expensive venture. And I know the article that I'm referring to where the St. Paul paper came and interviewed the marketing people and design people who were involved in packaging and things. And I guess it was the head of marketing, was discussing how he was so adamant that they have a package like that, structured like that. And it was, of course, didn't have square sides. So, when they nest them in the shipping cart containers, they have to put them in kind of at an angle, or however they did it, waste a little bit of space. But I think it really paid off because they were so dramatic in the box. And the packaging was awesome.
Imagine if that just had like a little tag with the tie.
Yeah.
Oh man, that'd be completely different, huh?
Yeah, it would.
I have a question about these. So you talk about how Hasbro bought out Tonka. So this is kind of a joke, but it's not. I call myself the Michael Jordan of wrestling figure collecting. I go out and I try to find these rare prototypes. And I was able to find these Hasbro body slammers. So it looks like almost the exact artwork of some of the Tonka buddies. Like, for instance, like Big Boss Man's almost identical. Jake the Snake. Ultimate Warrior is a little different.
Are those hand-drawn?
They look like they could be hand-drawn. These never came out. Those are the ball inside. You're supposed to throw them on the ground. They're supposed to bounce up. They were called body slammers, but they never came out, and I was able to track them down. I was always interested, like, if you were the one who drew these, or did someone just steal your designs?
No, you are actually holding my artwork in your hands.
Oh my God, there it is.
I have to tell you a story. There is a little story about this. So a few months ago, I was interviewed on a YouTube video. You probably saw it from Mike at Fig Heel.
Oh, Fig Heel's the best. Thank you.
Yeah, he's good.
And so when Mike and I were off camera, I said, have you ever heard anything at all about some little wrestlers that were made with a ball in the center?
Yeah, that's these
and
guys.
I had asked people because I remember drawing them. They're in my notebook, but I'd never seen them. And he said, oh my gosh, yes, I've seen pictures of them. And so he sent me a picture. And so it's the catalog from the 1992 Hasbro catalog.
Yes.
They were in there. And of course, I hadn't seen them since I drew them. So 30 years.
I have goosebumps right now just hearing this.
And I looked at those pictures and I went, my gosh, that is my actual artwork. Those are not printed. Those are.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I look closely, like you can tell this is the actual.
You can see, if you look at them, I mean, I'm looking at a photo on my computer and I'm sure it's the same guys, but you can see where the ink bleeds a little bit in places.
Absolutely.
Like if they were printed, all the lines would be pretty uniform.
Like I can see like the eyes like are drawn and they're fading a bit. And what also they have like Velcro, I guess maybe to stick them up for that ad.
Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what it was. They were used they were stuck up on a backdrop of some kind. Well, they had them at Toy Fair. I'm assuming they brought them to Toy Fair in 1992.
Now that I really look at the detail, you can tell like the hands are just, I didn't realize before that it's all hand done, but yeah, now that you mention it.
Yeah.
So cool.
Well, now that I know you have it, I actually have them in my new edition of my book, and I will put your name in as the owner, if you don't mind.
Oh, please do.
I was going to say, it's Christmas. Give them back to her, broski. Jeez.
No.
I paid a pretty penny for these guys. These were very, very expensive.
Let me read to you what I captioned that photo with. It says, the Body Slammers mini wrestling figures really existed. And that's after I explained the story. They were never produced. And I understand the prototypes are in the hands of a wrestler and collector. That's you. That's but I'll put your name in.
All right, make sure you spell Zach with an H.
No. But yeah, I always it was just so cool to me because I was always curious, were these just ripped off designs? But now we know they were yours. Now they're even more special to me now that
that's
I know
pretty
they're
cool.
done, and they're your own.
I think they're a lot cooler now that we've discovered all this. Yeah,
that is awesome.
Because
I'm excited.
For so many years, nobody knew what they were. And then I saw the Toy Fair catalog, and then I had to just track them down. But yeah, when people see them in my toy room, they're like, "What are those?" I think Brian, you came over a couple weeks ago. You're like, "What are those things?"
Yeah.
I've never even seen them. I don't remember you ever talking about them. So
yeah.
You honestly buy so many prototypes, I lose track of what you have.
So another question I had, and maybe you know the answer. So a couple years later, I've seen pictures on your Instagram. San Francisco Toy Makers was going to make WCW, and the Hogan is almost identical to yours. Did you draw that as well?
I drew the head. Okay. This has been another mystery that that Mike and I have tried to get to the bottom of. In my portfolio, I have a black and white line art drawing of Hulk Hogan's head with the WCW scarf that just says Hogan on it.
Right.
It's just black and white. And it's just it's drawn on a piece of tracing paper, and it's been in my portfolio. And, I've been a toy designer for almost 40 years. I have got extensive art files of my work and portfolios and computer files. Anyway, I've got all this stuff. And I had that. I kind of, when I started my Instagram, my toy Instagram account, which is Steph Designs Toys, by the way.
Give it a follow.
Give it a follow.
Steph with an F. Steph Designs Toys. I decided to kind of pursue it because I had some wrestling people who were following me, and so I had posted that and asked, and Mike had said, "Well, that looks a lot like this photo." He had found a photo from, I believe it was Toy Fair 1995. So the story is, from what I can put together, is original San Francisco toy makers had obtained the wrestling license, I guess, from Galoob, because they were a breakoff of Galoob when Galoob shut.
I think they had the connection, like the license died. They had the connections to.
Yeah, because
we assume it once they got Hogan, they saw there was money in it.
Galoob, San Francisco toy makers were a lot of the employees had come from Galoob. In fact, I believe that one of the Galoobs actually founded the company. So anyway, it was kind of a natural thing. And I had established a relationship with them from the time that Tonka closed in late 1991, early 92. I'd gone out to Galoob to interview because we were shut down, right? So there were 6 months before I went to my next company, which was Fisher-Price. So I went out to San Francisco and interviewed with Galoob, and I met a woman there who became a source of a lot of work for me down the road. So when I found this wrestling thing and asked what it was, well, people were saying, well, that Hogan, that can't be from the original Wrestling Buddies, because I honestly couldn't remember, because the Hogan name is different. That's his WCW scarf design. And then when I was told the dates, I'm thinking, well, I can't have done that because I was at Fisher-Price then. And when you work for a toy company, you can't freelance for another company. That's not kosher. So I tried to figure out when I would have done that. And I think I finally put it together that about the time I left Fisher-Price in 1995, or maybe 1994, I was contacted by original San Francisco toy makers who wanted to do a line of Wrestling Buddies to see if I would be interested in doing the artwork. And so I had just left Fisher-Price. I had a little bit of time. And so I even have in my notes, in my notebook, that I had a meeting with someone, about doing these.
Sal?
But I didn't.
Saul?
Saul. Yeah. So what I think happened is they wanted to have these new soft wrestlers done for Toy Fair of 1995. So they contacted me early. I did the Hulk face. They didn't have time to do any more designs for the catalog, because the catalogs have to be printed well before Toy Fair. Mm-hmm. So what they did was they had their old designs, which were not attractive. And they had those in the Toy Fair catalog. And then they took my design, that Hulk that you saw where Hulk was holding it. There's a photograph.
Yes.
And that's also in my book. That picture's in my book. That I designed that buddy, that single Hulk Hogan buddy. But what I believe happened is that it went to Toy Fair and it didn't get any traction. And so they just dropped the line. And that happens, just because something's at Toy Fair doesn't necessarily mean it's going to come out, or it might not get changed, or, things happen between February and the selling Christmas season. So, and if things don't receive a good response from the trade, then they just drop them. So I'm not privy to any information from original San Francisco toy makers as to what happened, but I'm just trying to put two and two together.
That's so interesting that, it could have came out, didn't come out. We know who designed these. We know it's so much in just this interview.
Wow. What an awesome
thank you
job
for being
you have.
on. I mean, I just want to, if you want to sell your notebook, no, I'm kidding.
No.
It's just so we thank you for keeping it, because for so many people it's just a job and it's just designing the next thing. But for you to have the records and to actually care enough to, because I'm sure there's a lot of wrestling fans who followed you and messaged you asking who else did they make and annoying you. But so thank you for coming on here and sharing what you have. It's going to make a lot of people very happy today. So thank you.
Oh, thank you guys so much. This was so much fun, and I appreciate your enthusiasm and knowledge and great questions, and makes me so happy to be a toy designer because, to me, it's always been about the kids. That's why I do it, to make kids happy and to know that made you guys happy, made kids all over the world happy. Then that's reward enough for me.
Well,
you did it. I promise you did it. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. Plug the book again. Let's plug the book one more time.
This is called Toy Stories: The Secret Life of a Toy Designer. I have a website, and it will be available for pre-order, and it's StefanieEskanderDesign.com. And I'm sure you can add some sort of a...
Oh, yeah. Mark, you put all those up, Mark.
Make like one of those things. Yeah,
right there.
You got it.
Yeah, right there. And the book will be... I think the book will be ready in January, and you can get all the details on my website of how to get it. And I think there's enough wrestling stuff in there in addition to all the cute little dollies that I did that it should make you guys happy.
Oh, we have a bunch of psycho listeners. They'll all get it, 100%.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for this. We really appreciate you taking the time to do it.
Merry Christmas and
Merry
happy
Christmas to you.
holidays
Thank
to
you.
everyone.
Yes, you
Thanks,
too.
guys.
Thank you. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us on Christmas morning to talk about Wrestling Buddies.
That was awesome, man. She's cool as hell.
I had goosebumps when we talked about those, those body slam wrestlers that she designed them, and we discovered live that I have them.
Right.
Can't believe you didn't give him back to her. It would have been a nice little Christmas miracle.
It would have been, but I spent a lot of money, more than $1,000 broski bill on that. But throughout the years, there's been so many companies who have tried to replicate the Wrestling Buddy, and they've all failed.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part,
let's quickly go through them, the companies, the versions. We're not going to go through every single guy, but we'll quickly go into it.
Let's go over a brief history of where we are now. From 1990s versions that we just went in depth on till modern
2020, 20 years.
Yeah.
All right. So at that same time at Hasbro's, there were these
30
bags.
years, by the way, broski.
30 years. I got a 12 on my 12th grade math finals. That makes sense.
I believe it.
You could tell. Look at this. It's such a copycat, right?
Yeah. Which, I mean, wrestling was in a little bit of a boom ski. These things were, flying off shelves. I don't blame WCW or, Toymax, whoever had the idea to do this.
Now, these don't have the nose. The nose is...
And I think that's the big... I don't know. It just feels like something's missing, right?
It's not as cute. Like, it's not as colorful. And it's, like, a little more realistic. The lines are a little more harsh. It's just, it's not even close.
You do Sting and you do white tights?
That's what I was about to say. Like, he's so colorful, and you go like the plainest gear you could think of,
Also, not tan. Come on.
Not tan. Yeah. I thought I had this autographed by Sting, but it was just my dad's friend Kenny Thiessen who dressed up as Sting.
What a childhood you've had.
At my birthday party. I was fooled. I was duped. But they're the same size,
right.
but
which is cool.
Yes, and in the same universe. So it was cool as a kid to now have other guys, to have your wrestling buddy fed.
Were you like Sid Justice is showing up?
Well, yeah.
And Matt Cardona's buddy fed.
So we'll talk about that. We'll quickly get into who they made here. There was Sting. There's the total package Lex Luger.
Do you have them all?
Very plain. I have them all.
Yeah,
very plain.
The face just looks so weird.
Yeah.
And the colors are very dull. And yes, these have been washed, but I can't imagine the colors being much brighter than this.
I've looked at pictures online. They're all like this. So.
Yeah, and the material, it's rougher, if that makes sense. I'm rubbing the total package right now. But
Mark, do you have Ric Flair?
I don't, but I do. I think I need it.
That's a big get you need. Yeah.
Woo! No hair, no flair. Ric Flair. So I do have
to
this.
do with anything.
I believe mine is signed by, not this one. This is rebought. I also brought Ric Flair to a live event and met Ric Flair.
Did you just have the buddies on you at all times?
Yeah,
ready to go?
it's the same day that I met Boss Man. It was at WWF show. It's so weird. Like, I have pictures of like Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and I have his LJN. Like, why would I bring an LJN Jim Neidhart? Like, unless I knew in advance I was meeting these guys, I don't know.
Yeah, you probably knew in advance.
But the Ric Flair, I don't think captures the likeness that great.
Nah.
No.
It's the best one I've seen so far, but...
And I hate Flairs with black boots because, like, I can barely ever remember them,
Unreal,
right?
Yeah, Unreal's ridiculous. And even the red type, it's like, maybe once or twice. But just, like, not to harp on it, the face... It's just like, if you're a kid, you're laying in bed, you roll over, you see that face that looks a little too real.
And you say, woo!
It's almost like weird, but the WWF buddies, just that like cartoony thing.
Like Stephanie said, you could go to war with this thing in the basement and then bring it up to bed and cuddle with it.
Yeah,
it's kind of was like the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So there was also, I believe they were in UK.
The Steiners,
maybe I'm wrong.
Right?
Don't quote me.
Or it's just Rick.
No, these right here. Sid Vicious. And now look, his arms are up.
Yeah, which I'd hate.
So if these aren't UK, I know there's rare. If they're not UK, they're
very rare, right?
Very, very rare. Now, at least he pops in the red singlet. The black is more Psycho or Sid I think it's got Sid Vicious to me, but it works in the red. You know. And I guess this
makes me curious. Like the Luger and the Sid have the UK variant Galoob paint jobs to them, so maybe there's something to that. I don't know.
I'm trying to look at the tag, but the tag is there's nothing on here. You know what I'm saying? It's been washed so many times.
Yeah.
Also, though, in the UK, I think maybe, or just really, really rare, is the dog-faced gremlin.
That's
Rex
cool.
Steiner.
That was great.
That literally looks like an art project, though. Like somebody just drew that on, like a blank buddy.
I had to look at the back. Like I spent a lot of money to get this. This one was beat up, has some little holes in here, but it's super, super hard to get. There's also a Sting like this with his arms up. Wow. But I was outbid on it by Matt Chappelle Toyetic Toys, and guess what? It got lost in the mail.
Oh, I forgot about this. Oh my god.
Yes. So that is super duper rare. But I had to get this. No stock, though.
These were released or they're pre-production?
No, these were released. I think UK, but I could be wrong.
Wow.
I could be wrong about the UK. But yeah, very, very rare. And again, if I try to read the, the tag, absolutely nothing.
Right.
Absolutely nothing. But,
that one's great,
they're
though.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, they're cool. And it's cool to have, buddies in the same universe. But as we're about to see, it gets a little wild.
Okay. Well, there's a big gap here now, a little bit, right?
Well, what about the CMLL Super Luchadors?
Which, when I didn't say it out loud during the interview, because it would have just stopped the flow of a great conversation. But she said these were that the Tonkas were sourced in Mexico, which made me think that maybe that factory had like an in. Because these are so similar to the Tonkas.
Even the packaging.
The packaging's the same. So I was like, oh, maybe that's how this got brokered or something.
Now, I don't own any of those personally. Did you ever own any?
I had the Vampiro forever, and I must have sold it in the Great Purge of 2010, and now I kind of really want it back, and it is not easy to find, at all.
Not easy to find, but it's a great figure. And like I said, we're not going to list every single version of every single buddy, but we're going to go through a couple things. Let's get into some unreleased. Stephanie mentioned it earlier, the WCW San Francisco Toy Makers. We'll show them here. She explained it better than we can. So there's that. But what about
I knew this was coming.
Big Daddy Cool
That is so
Diesel.
Cool. It's a little smaller, but it's cool as hell.
It's a little smaller. There's actual stuffing flying out of this thing as I say it. This is a Just Toys. They were going to make him and Bret Hart.
The Bret Hart image came right up on Google. I just saw it, so yeah.
So I'm looking at this.
That's cool though.
I'm looking at this, trying to see if this is drawn on or printed. I can't quite tell, but super duper cool. I mean, these would have been great if these came out. There's a lot of Just Toys things. They made the Bendhams, the Stretch Wrestlers. And there's a lot of like role playing stuff that was unreleased.
It's like Just Toys was trying to do everything but action figures.
Right.
Well, I think they couldn't get the license.
Right. Exactly. The
Maybe,
license
but
with everybody
you
else.
think, I don't know.
So this Diesel, is a prized piece in my collection because it's very similar to the Hasbro's, and it's unreleased. So I wish they would have made this and the Bret Hart. So super cool and super proud to own this in my collection.
And before we move on here, Broski, another question: how the heck do you display yours?
Okay, well, here's the problem. It's because
he doesn't. There's a pile like in the corner of his room.
that's exactly right, Mark.
You could throw yourself into it and like take a safe.
The cats love it. The cats love it.
Oh my
terrible.
God! Get that Diesel away from your cat.
Yeah, it's terrible.
So some of them are stacked. Some of them are standing. Mark, you can play the clip from my my toy room video, also on YouTube, guys. Check it out. But yeah, that's just where they are. But I love these wrestling buddies, and I love showing off that I got Big Daddy Cool.
Got it. And Brian, you got something in your hand there.
I'd like to think I sent out a pretty wholesome message.
All right, well, let's talk about these.
If your kids are watching me on Saturday mornings.
WCW Bash and Brawlers. Now,
I actually like these.
I do like them. I do.
And when they came out, I thought they were as close as we've ever gotten, right?
They're
Up until a certain point.
They're a little smaller, but what I love is like it. Excuse me. It's almost like an airbrushed look to everything,
It's a different artistic take on them, which I didn't mind. It was like updated to me, and I thought it was a little bit cooler.
Now, it has the nose again, which is great.
Yes, adds to it.
Yeah.
It adds to it.
Now, Brian, do we have a
Big
list
schnoz.
of everyone? Do we have a list of everyone they made? I mean, I know there's Macho Man, there's Sting.
And there's multiple colors. Like there's a white macho, a red macho,
Is there a red Macho? I don't know.
Yeah, there's a red Sting and a white Sting for sure.
That there's Goldberg,
Hogan, there's DDP,
there's also,
Steiner, and
Big
Brett.
Bubba Bump, Big Bubba Bump,
Oh,
Big Bubba Bump. But yeah, who else is there? Is that Kevin Nash? I think.
Kevin Nash, yes. I think
Are we missing anybody?
There was no Scott Hall.
No.
I wish there was like a Raven or something. Funny story. So I've had this is my childhood Bret. I've had like forever. I don't know why. I just always thought it was so cool. And then when I went away to college, it was just like on my bed. And so we failed to mention. Did you ever?
Okay, so here we go. Listen.
Are you ready to bash and brawl, brother?
So are you ready to bash and brawl, brother?
I was so excited to show Mackenzie this, and I open it up, put fresh batteries in it, and it's dead.
no.
Devastated.
But
I
these,
know.
like, you'd be like hitting their arm. Look. Oh, my aching arm. Or here.
But if you put them, knows it's getting pinned. Put them down.
Breaking my arm.
Wait.
1, 2, 3. I'll be back, Jack.
And that's what we use for the close of our podcast.
Yeah.
The past
Famous.
year. Zombie back, Jack.
But it's pretty, dude. If you kick out, there's a mechanism that knows. Like,
All right, let's
keeps
try,
that
let's
up
try,
at
let's
2.
try.
It will. Wow, it's so cool.
Wait.
Busting my cut. You're breaking my arm. 1, 2.
He kicked out. He kicked out.
It's pretty cool, right?
great.
I mean, that's something I always thought was so cool about these.
But they would speak on their own. So
So my mom said when I went away to college my freshman year, this was just
see,
on my
he's just
bed,
going off.
and it would just be like, "Oh, my aching arm," whatever. She'd be like in the hallways of the house, like, "What's going on?"
But for me, this is like junior high school edition. Like, so I'd be making out with a chick, and all of a sudden you roll over, and it's like,
It makes me wonder, like, why did we have these at 17-year-old kids? But
well, they
whatever.
also made non-talking versions called Heavy Hitters.
Yes,
So-
which is
so
the
these-
exact same thing without all the mechanics. inside
Right,
of
which
it.
I guess are
Yeah.
kind of better because this they never really worked properly.
I remember being like, wow, I wish the Tonka ones did that when I was a kid, what these do, because that adds a whole nother layer to like your creativity as a crazy little kid,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And these are Toybiz, correct? Toybiz, yes.
Yes,
So-
this is part of the Toybiz line.
See, now it's just not shutting up. So imagine how annoying these are if you have the whole collection. They're all just
They
going
even
on.
made a version that was like kind of just the heads, and you throw them on the ground, and they like.
And that's
make
weird
noises
because
and
there's
crap.
like a Ric Flair, I think, like that, and a Giant. So where are they going to make these?
Maybe.
Like, I don't know. Very interesting. But these came in nice toyetic boxes, but nice and flat. You know what I'm saying?
And
So
with cool,
it took up a lot of real estate.
really cool box art on them too.
Yes,
as well.
it took up a lot of real estate. But you weren't able. So we'll talk about it later on with the Jakks. Shut up, Hogan.
Yeah, he's ruining the show.
But kids could really play with the Tonka ones, at Toys R Us, get all dirty and stuff like that. We'll talk about that with the Jakks, but not these. These are perfect. Jesus, Hogan, shut up! I'm getting rid of Hogan. I'm getting rid of Hogan.
The non-mechanical ones, I don't think came in a box.
No, they did not.
Yeah,
they did not.
I'm just making that, clarifying that.
So those were super cool. So you want to go into a little, we had the Monday Night Wars, but we also had Toybiz against Jakks. So you wanna go into the Jakks?
Yeah, but we're gonna discuss Bone Crunching Buddies is where I think we're getting at here.
That's Bone Crunching Buddies, baby.
Which even when I was a kid, I thought sucked. I think they suck right now. So, I mean, say your piece.
Look at this little guy. Yuck. Come on.
These are hideous, ugly, stupid. You can't wrestle it as a little kid. It was too small.
No, and here's the thing. It's like, it's way too small. So, like, what do you mean it's a buddy? What? Are you an infant? You know what I'm saying?
It looks like an alien, like a Star Wars
weird
alien.
arms. Ugh.
Now, I'm going to try to click this into the microphone and see if it works, but...
Who cares?
No, so it's bone crunching, right? So
I know, but like I'm saying, Jakks, who cares?
Give me the elbow here. Now, the heads are hard, right?
Horrible.
And the bone crunching, now, this is what I'm talking about with kids playing with it in the store. When I rebought all these, a lot of the bone crunching mechanisms were broken because kids are breaking it in the store, trying it in the store.
And honestly, my memories of these were like, even in the Attitude Era where things are flying off the shelves and so popular, those were always there because people were like, these suck.
Now, I do like that they can kind of stand on their own because the foot is like a plastic.
I mean, that's
what I'm saying?
But why would you want to display that and show that off in your collection?
They make Dude Love. They make Shawn Michaels. There's Undertaker.
Hideous Shawn Michaels.
Oh, God. There's LOD. There's Triple H, The Rock.
That honestly looks like Gilbert in your hands
right it does. It really does look like Gilbert.
I mean, we just spent a decent amount of time with Gilbert that looked just like him.
I did want to just show this. We talk about the spikes. These spikes are kind of sharp, but they're removable, so I did kind of like that. Now, these are LOD 2000. But I did like that it had an accessory. I thought that was pretty cool.
Doesn't stand the test of time, but yeah, whatever.
You don't think so?
No, it's garbage, man.
Wait, you don't think the accessory is cool?
Oh, that's cool.
One little thing is cool, but like
line.
No, yeah,
Stone Cold's so bad it makes me like cringe.
But another thing that was weird is that I think they weren't allowed to do topless men because like The Rock has a vest, Shawn Michaels has a vest. I think Triple H has a vest as well. Like he's not wearing a lay in the SmackDown vest. It would have worked for Austin.
That's sweet, man.
Not so much
to
for
get
The
that
Rock.
made up and wear it when it come out on Impact.
But the sculpts look good. This looks like, like a bone crunching sculpt. But what are you going to do with these? You can't wrestle with them. Like you can't wrestle. What am I trying to say?
Crazy thing is wrestling so popular that there's 3 sets of those, right?
I think there might be more.
More?
Like maybe.
No, there's at least
because some
3.
guys are made twice.
Yeah, I thought it was at least a man.
So these, I say F, fail. And like you said, the Attitude Era. They couldn't make something better than this? Come on.
Moving on.
This is where we're all over the map, right? Jakks then tries again with the buddies with these talking pounders.
I didn't hate these. I thought these are because like the bone crunching ones, to me they were trying to make a buddy, like a one you would wrestle. Right. These I didn't get the impression that you were meant to wrestle. They were just like a cute stuffed version of a pro wrestler. So I'm okay with it. They actually really remind me of modern day Bleacher Creatures, which I think are cool.
So they're kind of cartoony, and if you press like the gut or whatever, like it will talk. Mine does not. I believe there's a Cena, an Orton. It proves how over the Hurricane was that he's in the set.
Yeah, it's really cool. And Mysterio.
Oh, is there a Mysterio? Okay.
Yeah.
But what I loved about these is that even now, they're still kind of hard to get. So when I was tracking down this Hurricane, it was kind of hard to get. So this is something that's like hard to get, but not in demand.
Sought after.
If that makes
not
sense?
sought after. Yeah,
It's a
different kind of hard to get.
Different kind of hard to get. Now, let's get into the other Bash and Brawlers made by Toybiz, but this time not WCW. TNA.
I dig those. I actually want that, Christian.
So
that face sculpt is actually really good.
Yeah.
So let me see if I can get some of the actions here, or the.
Now I'm gonna get you with the frog splash.
Ow!
Oh my god.
But it's cool. You got me this for Christmas a couple years ago, actually.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, and I got Johnny Clash this thing.
So it could kind of stand. But again, like It's not a real
cute.
buddy.
It's a cute item.
It's a cute little item.
It's not a wrestling buddy. Yeah.
But I had to get it because it's Christian, and I love buddy stuff, so I try to get some obscure things. But yeah, it just something like this is not going to take off. We need to go back to the original buddies. All right, so our good friends at Mattel try some buddies, and they're called Brawl-In Buddies. So if you see like the artwork, it's a kid like fighting with him. So they're meant to be buddies, but again, they're too small.
Too small.
A funny
The
story.
appeal of these buddies was, boom, you're a little kid. Oh my God, look at the size of this, you know?
Look at little
So
Zach
that's
here.
that's not doing it.
Look at little Zach here now.
Love the Razor Ramon 5 o'clock shadow on that.
Yeah, it's weird. He's got like a gray beard. Like,
That's
okay, maybe I have a
always been
couple
my-
grays now as 35-year-old Matt. but
Always
it's
been
like,
my favorite part of that figure.
It's like, and it
I
doesn't
call
have
it the
like a
Razor Ramon.
It doesn't have a mustache either. Funny story about this. When they showed this off, Mattel would come to the WWE and show like the new figures and stuff like that, and they showed up this new line, and I stole the prototype because this was like when my push was going away. I was like, this might not come out, so I asked if I could take it. They said no, and I took it anyway.
Oh my God, that was the day Tyler X quit. I have vivid memories of that day of my life.
You know,
yeah.
there's an early podcast, Broski. I have a distinct memory where you talk about stealing it, and then you made sure like 9 times that I got rid of.
Well, I already got fired, so we can admit it.
Yeah,
I stole the prototype.
I guess
You
that's
fire
the
me?
big difference.
I'm already fired.
I'm already fired.
Let me see if this one still works.
Did you do voiceover work for this?
I did. I remember Brooklyn Brawler bringing me into a room, and I didn't.
kid, I need you in the room.
Right, but I didn't know.
some voiceovers.
I didn't know exactly what they were for, so I was
Just like pretend you're getting pounded on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think one says, "Get ready for the Rough Rider." Let's see if we can hear that.
You know it. Take care, spike your hair. You're my bro.
You're my bro. We're not bros.
On the Long Island I see.
I thought he said, "Get ready for the Rough Rider."
You know it. Take care.
Maybe not.
Take care, Spiker. I don't know if Mark remembers it. The Broski and the Kofi from that were on the couch at Cap forever.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know what happened to them until just right now.
I
just realized they're
distinctly
disappeared.
remember you going, all right, these have worn out their welcome, and you just got rid of them. You put them
I was thinking maybe we
Ash.
gave them to like a kid after a birthday party or something, but whatever.
But for me to get something like this, it was great because like they only made like the top guys. So
No,
for me
I mean that is a big career accomplishment, I think.
So for me to get to squeak into this line, gray beard or not, I'm honored.
Cena,
Who are the couple guys in there?
Zack Ryder.
Oh, but there's also Brodus Clay, and there's a funny story about that because he like busts through the wall, like this brick
commercial.
wall during the commercial. But
Yeah.
he says he does it on purpose. But I said I've heard that it's legit. He like falls through Shockmaster style, and there's a scene on the cutting room floor. I've seen it of him falling through
seen it too.
Shockmaster style.
Yeah. But he said he was trying to pop everyone on set. I'm like, you're trying to pop non-wrestling fans about an obscure wrestling reference?
Yeah. Well, I just broke this. He won't talk anymore, so that's it. That's it for
Well,
it.
Look, if you got one, slide into Broski's messages because he's going to pay a lot of money for it.
Battery.
All right, now we're gonna get into. There's so many people who are making like customs and obscure ones. So let me just show off a couple of them because I think they're really cool. This company is non-existent anymore. They were called Wrestle Pals.
Damn,
and
that's beautiful.
I commissioned them to make this. This is like almost damn near perfect compared to a Tonka, but the nose is flat. But like if you Google or even eBay wrestling, but there's so many customs. People make like a Mr.
course,
Perfect.
it's like a hobby, yeah.
It's a hobby. But a lot of companies are doing it. There's like the Gador brothers. They make some badass ones. Or Slam Buddies just did a Sex Ferguson.
So that's Sex Ferguson. I
know?
hope that's under my Christmas tree, actually.
Broski, that one is great. That's actually
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The colors on that look really bright and stuff.
Yeah, and I had it designed just, I sent them all my real graphics. So this is the real internet title graphic. So it's like perfect. You know what I'm saying?
It's really
so
cool.
it's as accurate as possible.
Not tan enough.
Not
What's that?
tan enough.
Not
Not
tan
jacked enough. Not tan enough, but it's
and then
okay.
Toy Snobs made this. What up, dude? This like
pretty cool.
Undertaker. It's a little smaller though. A little smaller, but it's cute. It's cool. I love Toy Snobs. But like, what? Someone was asking this question: what's considered a custom and what's not? Because a lot of these people make like they don't mass produce them, but they make enough where people can get them. So it's kind of like we're in a weird territory, you know. And I like
agree.
it.
To me, a buddy is not custom if the artwork isn't drawn on.
Okay,
Right?
That's fair.
Can't that be the only you know?
That's fair. But what about this, buddy?
It's a
I'm
dog
glad
toy.
you brought that up.
That's why I had to leave earlier. I had to go get this from my from Dude the Dog's Toybiz. This is like what I consider a custom buddy because it looks bad. Like you turn it around, there's no back. It's just a solid color.
That's where he autographs them.
At least this is a little. But look at the artwork on this.
Great.
I think it's
He made
great.
it-
You
Swoggle
give
did it in paint.
Swoggle's buddy too much crap, and this is a good time to bring this up. The thing about these buddies, and we've been talking about it, so important to us, so like iconic in our history, and we are 30-something-year-old wrestlers. There are so many guys on the indies, especially who make this for merch. Like
Yes,
anybody
Ethan
who's
Page.
smart, yeah. Cole Cabana, Ethan Page, they have some great buddies. I know Anthony Green used to do it on the indies. So, like, it's just a cool thing, and everybody makes it because it's like, yes, it's a wrestling buddy. But I love Swoggles.
And I'll tell you this, I'll have like a micro brawler on my table that's worth whatever, upwards of $50. And a little kid comes up and goes, how much is that? And I'm like, it's kind of annoying. It makes me wish I had a simple little silly buddy like that to sell to the little kid instead of like a high-end
did you
collectible
see
that looks like a toy.
Pro Wrestling Tees just made a Colt Cabana micro brawler buddy. Have you seen that? It's a little small thing for gimmick table stuff. I think we need some major pod ones.
Yeah, I'm sure that's in the cards. Oh, you know what I wanted to mention? I don't know where you have it on your list, Broski, your mental list. The Ringside Collectibles buddies that only came out recently.
Well, let's. I'm glad you brought that up because it started as a Jakks, but not like the original Jakks. Well, it's still the company Jakks, but while Mattel had the license, Jakks, because they couldn't make action figures, made other products. And they made some wrestling buddies. They made The Rock, Cena, there's an AJ, and they're trying to be like the original buddy, but they're not quite the same, and it didn't work out. But Ringside somehow was able to get those as Ringside exclusives and correct them to make them more like the old school buddy, and they made Finn Balor, and they made the Hardy Boys.
Which I love. I mean, the only thing I don't love is I think maybe it's Matt. His arms are up. Like I've been saying a lot.
Matt and Jeff's arms.
Matt and Jeff, I'm a real stickler for the arms down deal.
I agree.
But they're pretty cool and close to the real thing. I mean,
they have a little bit of a nose.
of a
And
raised
you know what
nose.
I like? You know what I like? They added some like
that's like an innovation I don't mind.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? To backtrack to what Mark said about the Macho King, if it was something like that, maybe.
Right, like a little flappy.
Wouldn't mind his cape being in that way, but
right.
That's an innovation.
Yeah,
they're almost 30 years later, right?
And it's, I noticed this. Woken Matt Hardy, Superstar Buddy. So there's no big box, just a little tag ski.
Yeah.
A little tag ski. But it's cool, and I like that the arms are up, but it's not. You need them down,
Man, now that I'm, I don't know, just spitballing here, but if Ringside has these connections, I would love if they could make like a Jushin Liger buddy or something, true to form.
Oh yeah.
Well, this was made by Jakks, even though it was a Ringside exclusive.
Either way, whatever. They get things done, Ringside Collectibles.
Ringside does get things done.
Use discount code Major. Save yourself 10% when you.
And the Major Pod figures, the next wave is coming out. Even silver balls. You get your silver balls from Ringside Collectibles.
No baby.
There you go.
But I think that's a perfect segue into the finale, if you will. Something that we wanted to do for a long time. And thank you to our man, Knick, for getting it done. By now,
My friends over here?
They're sold out. But here they are, the Major Buddies. I'm super proud of these. Something that we wanted to do for a long, long time. And Knick made it a reality. TTD, thank you for designing these. I think this captures the Tonka Buddy as good as any other one has tried. Cartoony, even has the nose. I got that Major Pod title. It glistens just like the $1 Million Man.
Yeah. I mean, the only real difference is it's much softer.
Right.
Like the material, I think just fabrics have really,
Gotten better over the years.
changed over the years and better quality is really all it is. It's just much softer.
Yeah.
But these
lighter.
we made 250 sets of these. They sold out almost instantly. But, it's all about the designer, So, like, if we just had somebody just drawing these, if they looked more realistic, it wouldn't have worked. But because TTD, he gets us. And he he's the unsung hero of the pod, and he gets like what we're looking for, the nostalgia. He was able to capture that Tonka look with these, and then Knick got them done, got them made, and we had to go through some prototype stages until we got the final product.
Oh yeah, my first one, just like so people understand how like these things are made and stuff. Like however they sewed it, it looked like this, like it was stretching my face.
Right, you look like Sloth from Goonies.
So it looked like Sloth from Goonies, but that's all in the like application, and like Stephanie was saying, like you can't draw it and then stuff it because it's not going to be the right dimensions and stuff anymore, you know.
Yeah, and of course,
truth be told, it's nap time right now, and I had to secretly steal these from Mackenzie's room,
but
replace them with Zootopia dolls.
Of course, we had to, take the look of the Tonka. Like this is. I close my eyes, I think of Wrestling Buddy, and this is the style. This is the look. So look at that. I mean, $1,000 broski and the $1 Million Man. So I mean, it's a little taller, but not much. It's tag team right here. Ted and Matt. $1,000 broski, $1 Million Man.
Versus Brett and Brian.
Yeah, I mean, these are something that
Brett and Brian, we're the work rate match over here. What are you guys?
Well, you're writing a wrestling show. We're booking a television program. So I mean, all in all, 30 years later to make our own, it's great. It's a dream come true, and I think a company like Mattel, they could do it. And listen, full disclosure, I talked to people from Mattel. We got these vacuum sealed, so super flat. So I know the problem in 2020 is taking up real estate in the toy aisle. But if they can vacuum seal them and put them in small boxes, I think that might be the way to go. They won't be as fluffy. Maybe they'll be a little softer like this, but I think it's better than nothing because I think kids these days.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the big problem. I think is that. Right, taking up real estate in a especially with no Toys R Us anymore, where wrestling's only getting so much anyway.
So literally, these came vacuum sealed, so they're flat. We were able to fold them up and ship 2 of them in one. I say large. There's not even that large USPS priority box. So I mean, it can be done. But I just want to thank Stefanie Eskander for giving us the knowledge, giving us her time on Christmas morning. I want to give thank you to all you people for listening this morning.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, as a wrestling fan, nothing but like precious memories about Wrestling Buddies, and I think a lot of our fans and listeners will feel the same way. Like it's just irreplaceable childhood memories, right? So
yeah, let us know too. Let us know on Twitter #MajorBuddies. Let us know below wherever you want. Tell us your stories. It's great.
And the best part about it is I know that this Christmas season, maybe not a lot of kids, but a lot of adults will be cuddling their Major Buddies. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yes. Speaking of which, broski, you've been sleeping in my daughter's bed, and I don't appreciate all the topics all over her bed.
Oh, come on.
What's up, everybody? This is All Ego Ethan Page, and I'm here for this very special video released on a very special day to some very special fans. I'm talking to you guys about Wrestling Buddies and how their legacy is continuing on independence. Wrestlers have been going out of their way to make sure that they can continue the legacy of these fantastic, fantastic toys that we collected when we were children, like myself. I wish I had a physical copy to show you, but it's actually wrapped under our tree right now for my daughter. And I really wanted to talk about... If we're gonna talk about Wrestling Buddies, we better talk about the Karate Man Wrestling Buddy. He's more jacked than the Ethan Page Wrestling Buddy. Both available now, played by Julian.com. For some reason, I don't handle the logistics. I just kick ass and do spin kicks. And the Karate Man wants you to know, as a collector, you should truly broaden your horizons and invest in a Karate Man Wrestling Buddy and continue the legacy and trend of collecting half-naked men in plush form. And if you don't, the Karate Man is gonna kick your ass. Like this bitch Ethan Page. You disgust me.